Growing calls for criminal charges against the former leaders of Ingham County Animal Control. Tonight, we look at what legal action could happen next.
Plus, a new batch of emails add to allegations against Attorney General Bill Schuette, claiming he had staff doing political work on public time.
From your breaking news and weather authority, you're watching News 10 at 6.
Good evening. They've lost their jobs. Question is, should the former leaders of the Ingham County Animal Control and Shelter face criminal charges?
The county commissioners fired Director John Dinan last night, shortly after Deputy Director Ann Burns retired. The two of them and shelter veterinarian Karen Worthington are named in reports that will be sent to police. News 10's Alani Latang has been on top of this story since she broke it last month. Alani, where do things stand in terms of criminal charges?
Well, and the Board of Commissioners can't make that decision, but they've seen enough already in reports from the Michigan Humane Society and the county controller to get the police involved. That decision came with some controversy.
Absolutely, there should be charges, because if a normal citizen would have done this to these dogs, they would be facing felony animal cruelty charges.
And even if it is only 4 dogs, it's still 4 dogs that you would arrest someone for if they were doing it on the street. So we can't lose sight of that.
That is not true. So we would not arrest people for this.
And I don't know how, if this had come from the general public, I would think that there would be a criminal investigation.
After a heated argument over whether or not criminal charges should be looked into against top leadership at the Ingham County Animal Control and Shelter, the Board of Commissioners voted to pass the investigation along to law enforcement.
Me personally, it's been brought up, and we can't say that. And so I just want to, make sure that that is being investigated appropriately, because I can't make that determination myself, and that's the only reason why.
The question now is which agency will get it. The Ingham County Sheriff's Office is staying out of it. The Mason Police Department is one option, and state police tell me they could take the case as well.
If someone requested that the agency be investigated, that's something that our command would determine if it's something that they want us to investigate. And again, or it could be the Attorney General's office could also look into it.
No matter who investigates, a situation like this could lead to criminal charges if there's enough evidence of neglect or abuse.
There's going to be felonies and misdemeanors for that, depending on the type of neglect or how many are involved, that type of thing. But generally, a lot of them are misdemeanor offenses.
Now, a separate motion was passed to hand over the reports from the controller and the Michigan Humane Society to the Michigan Board of Veterinary Medicine. That agency would decide if Dr. Karen Worthington would face any professional sanctions. We'll keep you updated.
All right, thanks, Alani. A sergeant with the Ingham County Sheriff's Office will run animal control starting Monday. Now, that will last until the Board of Commissioners appoints an interim director. You can catch up on all of our coverage of this story on the WILX app.
An update tonight on the Okemos priest charged with embezzlement. Today, Father Jonathan Worley's lawyer announcing he's withdrawing from the case. Nolan Thompson of Villas Law did not say why he's stepping down during a hearing today. 2 attorneys from Graywall Law will now take over. Worley's trial was also pushed back to January of 2019. He's accused of embezzling as much as $5 million from St. Martha Parish in Okemos. We also have an update about the Eaton County mother accused of assaulting her 2-month-old baby. In a court document, Taylor Prawl 6 confessed to throwing her infant son into a portable crib on multiple occasions. The incidents reportedly happening in June and early July. The child, named Braxton, suffered multiple brain bleeds. Prawl 6's case is scheduled to go to trial on September 17th.
New details tonight on the allegations that Attorney General Bill Schuette illegally used his office staff for political purposes.
Today, the liberal group Progress Michigan releasing emails dating back at least a decade. News 10's Barrett Tryon tells us what's in them.
The Attorney General says this is just another political attack, but Progress Michigan says the emails show multiple examples of Schuette's staff discussing and doing political work on the taxpayers' dime.
There is no way, there is no way the scope of this political activity on state time could go on without him knowing in his service
Progress Michigan releasing 8 years worth of emails Wednesday between Michigan Attorney General Bill Schuette, his staff, even volunteers. The group claims it proves what was happening inside his office was illegal.
This is against Michigan state law, and we believe that the public has a right to know that this has been taking place, that taxpayers have essentially been subsidizing staff that have been doing political work for the Attorney General and supporting his campaigns.
Lieutenant Governor Brian Calley, who is one of 3 Republicans running against Schuette in the primary, says it is no surprise.
Well, it's just another example of the abuse of the office by the Attorney General. I mean, it's something that's been kind of an open secret around town for a long time, the level to which that office is politicized.
Critics argue the release of the emails just days before the primary is questionable, and the state attorney general agrees.
This is, again, just desperation politics at its worst, because I've got Democrats attacking me because they don't want to face me in November. They know I'm the strongest candidate and can win. The Republicans are desperately behind, and I've had everything, including the kitchen sink, thrown at me.
We're not on an election timeline. To us, this had nothing to do with the election. It was all about the timeline for the legal case.
Now, we also reach out to the other campaigns for comment. We have their statements online. If you would like to see those emails released today, we also have those links on the WILX app.
All right, Barrett, thank you. Bill Schuette is being sued for reportedly operating what's being described as a political enterprise out of his state office. The Attorney General requested a protective order on Monday to delay subpoenas for requests on emails like the ones just released. We will let you know when a judge rules.
Michigan cannot eliminate straight party voting. That was the ruling from a U.S. district judge today. He says not allowing voters to automatically pick all the candidates from one party would make voting lines longer and increase wait times. Governor Rick Snyder signed the ban 2 years ago. He says eliminating straight ticket voting will inspire voters to do their homework instead of just choosing one party. Nearly half the ballots cast in Michigan in November of 2016 were straight ticket.
And this year's primary election is less than a week away. It's Tuesday, August 7th. On election night, we'll have full coverage of all the statewide races, including the race for governor. We'll also be tracking political races and millage results from across mid-Michigan. Until then, you can get informed by visiting our website. Check out everything from candidate profiles to descriptions of local millages. It's all there on WILX.com.
And there's been some rain on the radar today, moving through parts of mid-Michigan. I'm wondering if we'll have more tonight.
Yes, Andy Provenzano is the man with the answer right now over in the Weather Center. Hi, Andy.
Blossoming up through the afternoon hours, guys, mainly because of the sunshine. Now with the sun going down, it'll start to diminish. But we have a pretty decent storm. Just went through parts of Clinton County. Take a look at Doppler radar, and it's east now of St. John's and DeWitt. This will do a slow fade, as they all have. Even when you were down in Jackson County earlier today, the storms blossomed up, and now they're just rainmakers as they head towards Adrian. The whole area, though, is going to still see 1 or 2 yet before the evening is done, and then we'll get involved in a quieter weather pattern. You see the storms out to the west of us. Well, they're back in tomorrow afternoon and evening, so the quiet pattern will not only last for the night, probably the morning hours, and then we'll get involved in another batch of those showers and storms. Temperatures were in the 80s today. They'll be back there again tomorrow, and eventually we'll find numbers jumping up close to 90 this weekend. 74 rain-cooled in Lansing, only 65 in Jackson since the rain has moved through there. It's been a quiet afternoon. There's the rain shaft off to the north, so you still can have the umbrella for an hour. We'll talk about the weekend in just a few minutes.
A new parking rule goes into effect at Michigan State University today. Moped riders now have to park their vehicles in designated parking spaces on the MSU campus. The university stopped allowing mopeds to be parked at bike racks because it doesn't want them on sidewalks. Moped permits are now available for the upcoming school year. They cost $50.
The debate over Lansing City Market is now headed to court. Waterfront Bar and Grill is suing Lansing over the city's termination of the restaurant's lease. Its parent company filed a motion to prevent the city from evicting the restaurant from City Market. Waterfront was told to leave by Tuesday, but it was still open for business. The lawsuit says 25 employees will lose their jobs if the restaurant closes. A prosecutor says a police officer was justified in the fatal shooting of a suburban Detroit man. Genesee County Prosecutor David Layton says the officer was acting in self-defense. Antonio Thomas Gordon ran from a traffic stop on April 10th in Royal Oak. After officers caught up with him, he was shot when he tried to run again.
Coming up tonight, with the primary election less than a week away, local clerks are preparing for a very busy night. See how Ingham County is working to keep your vote safe. That story at 6:15. Now taking a look at your time saver traffic, a big backup on I-96 near Howell westbound between M59 and Fowlerville is slow due to an accident there. If anything changes, we will keep you updated.
This week on Portage Pulse, Brady Lake residents' fight to dissolve the village is gaining momentum. I'll take you to Wednesday night's heated village council meeting.
Plus, neighbors helping strangers. See how a Mogador business is providing relief to wildfire victims 1,000 miles away.
Also, President Trump's weekend getaways to his Florida golf club are costing taxpayers big league. See how the president's travel expenses just this year could quickly surpass those for Obama's entire presidency.
And the final installment of our Future of Political Parties series, I sit down with a college Republican to discuss the future of the GOP. Portage Pulse starts right now.
Hello and welcome to Portage Pulse, Portage County's only public affairs show. I'm Anna Huntsman.
And I'm Kiana Duncan. We told you last week about Brady Lake's ongoing fight to dissolve the village this May.
Residents are fed up with high taxes and bad road conditions, while council members say a new loan will help the area in the long run. I was at the heated council meeting Wednesday night where residents clashed with village leaders.
A peaceful evening at Brady Lake. It's quiet here. But as the sun goes down over the lake, tensions rise at Village Hall. Residents clashing with village leaders on their community's future.
I love the area. Yeah, the area is great. It's just, the government's not so great right now. We're kind of hurting.
Resident Jason Rethermal isn't just talking about the risky roads.
We're in debt way over our heads. We've got outstanding debt that takes up a third of all our income every year. And now we're going even further into debt.
To help with these financial hardships, the state approved a $250,000 loan to fix the roads. But the village doesn't know the interest rate on this loan yet, which concerned Rethermal and other residents.
That suggests to me that final commitments regarding this loan have not been made.
Oh no, the final commitment's been made, believe me.
Without knowing an interest rate?
Yes. Residents were also concerned about how they're going to pay back that loan, but the village clerk, Ethel Nemeth, says that won't be an issue.
How's it going to be paid back? You passed a levy.
Even still, Rethermal says paving the roads won't pave the way to success in the long run.
We'll put another levy through and then we'll add another tax, but we never have additional money in the coffers, which means if we ever have a catastrophe, we're done. So we're sunk again.
That's why he and others want to disincorporate the village and join neighboring Franklin Township, where the grass is greener, the roads are smoother, and the taxes are dramatically lower.
We have to pay for the debts that we've already incurred, but that will be over a short period of time. And then we'll go to the general tax rates of Franklin Township, which is already 62% less on our property taxes than what Brady Lake charges. Plus, they don't have a 1% personal income tax.
Dissolving the village was on the ballot 3 years ago, but did not pass. Rethermal thinks there is more awareness and support this time around.
Awareness has gone up quite a bit, right? Last time around, there were a lot of speculations that were put out there by the local government. And this time around, people are starting to understand that, the taxes are too high, they're losing services.
Mayor Hal Lehman wasn't available for comment after the meeting and hasn't returned my calls. He told me previously he hopes residents do not vote to dissolve the village that was put on the map 90 years ago.
This was one of the last council meetings before the May election. Stick with us as we follow Brady Lake's bumpy road to the polls.
After a wildfire decimated farmland in Kansas last month, Mogador business Duma Meats is sending much-needed relief. Amazing, incredible, and sad is how Sarah Duma Birch, the owner of Duma Meats, described the 1,200-mile trip to Ashland, Kansas. Birch and her family drove a convoy to the Sunflower State to join a crew of over 50 Ohioans helping out fire-damaged parts of the state. Duma also gave generous amounts of hay to the desolated farm. The family in Kansas had lost 75% of their land and some cattle after wildfires whipped through the southern part of the state weeks ago. Birch says another drive to the farm is a go for this weekend, and people are encouraged to donate money to Duma Meats to pay for hay, trucking resources, and other supplies.
With more than a year to go before Ohio's U.S. Senate race, incumbent Sherrod Brown is raising record money. Brown's campaign this week announced it raised $2.4 million in the first 3 years of 2017. It's the most Brown has ever raised in an election off-year quarter, being almost double the amount he raised during the same time in 2011. The Democrat now has about $5 million on hand.
U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions promised to step up enforcement against undocumented immigrants this week. Tuesday at the U.S.-Mexico border in Arizona, Sessions announced policies aimed at using existing laws to escalate charges attorneys can bring against undocumented immigrants. In a memo to federal prosecutors, he ordered the attorneys to make felony cases against immigrants who are repeat offenders. He also instructed them to charge first-time border crossers with misdemeanors, making it easier to charge them with felonies in the future.
We'll be detaining all adults who are apprehended at the border. They will not be released. To support this mission, we have already surged 25 immigration judges to detention centers along the border. In addition, we will put 50 more immigration judges on the bench this year and 75 next year.
Sessions also said immigrants who use fake documents can be charged with identity theft or fraud.
President Trump signed a bill Thursday that allows states to withhold Title X federal funding from Planned Parenthood and other abortion providers. The Senate narrowly passed the resolution at the end of March. The action overturns a rule enacted last year by President Obama that prevented states from defunding the providers. This is the first major pro-life legislation to be signed into law in more than a decade.
President Trump loves to visit and relax at his private golf club in Florida, Mar-a-Lago. He has spent 6 weekends at the club since taking office, and he's racked up a hefty travel bill.
All of the president's travel so far puts him on pace to surpass Barack Obama's 8 years of travel expenses in just 1 year. Here's Tom Foreman.
The president keeps taking off, and the bills keep piling up. The latest getaway itinerary?
The president plans to spend the Easter holiday in Florida, and he'll return to the White House on Sunday.
Since assuming office, President Trump has spent 6 weekends at his Florida resort, Mar-a-Lago, for a Super Bowl party in early February, a meeting and dinner with the Japanese Prime Minister, a little golf the weekend after that, a little more golf 2 weeks later, still a few more holes in mid-March, and then his meeting in early April with the Chinese president. To be sure, he ordered the strike on Syria during that last visit, and his staff insist he is always working.
And I think the president, wherever he goes, he carries the apparatus of the White House with us. That is just something that happens.
But in just 80 days, Trump's travels have cost taxpayers an estimated $21 million, all while drawing attention to and boosting the value of his private properties. Membership fees at Mar-a-Lago, for example, have already doubled to $200,000. The Secret Service insists it can handle the load of protecting all that travel. But the head of Homeland Security notes agents are pulling long shifts.
We need a larger Secret Service because we need to get some of these people a little bit of time at home with their families.
Law enforcement officials in Florida say they too are spending tens of thousands a day and working their officers as if a hurricane is hit.
Which is 12-hour shifts and canceled vacations, and we're going to use all of our manpower that we have at our fingertips.
And in New York, where First Lady Melania Trump lives, taxpayers are shelling out up to $146,000 a day to secure Trump Tower.
Florida's Palm Beach County, where Mar-a-Lago is located, is considering levying a special tax on the property to offset security costs for when President Trump visits.
Still to come on Portage Pulse, Republicans are on top in Washington and in Ohio, but demographic trends and internal struggles are showing progress. Our Caroline Henneman asks, what is the future of the Republican Party?
Then, airstrikes on a Syrian base last week may not have been as effective as hoped. We'll tell you why coming up.
And later, will students be able to read important documents like the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence? Stick with TV2 for the future of cursive in schools.